Hello, I'm James from Jamcom IT Consults, and in our next tutorials we shall be looking at some of the fundamentals of object-oriented programming. To do this we shall use C#. For those of you who are using different programming languages like PHP, Java, C++, the concepts are basically the same. There's few changes here and there in executing the code, but the concepts are the same. Now when C# opens, when you first open C#, this is where it opens, where you can either open an existing project or a new project. Let's go ahead by clicking a new project, and we shall use a console application. You give it a name. We shall call it my project. For those of you who want to follow along, you can go to microsoft.com/express and download your own copy of C#. It's free of charge. 2010 or a higher version will be preferred. When you open C# here, mine should look so much similar to yours when it first opens. The main difference maybe would be the line numbers here. If you want to activate your line numbers, go to Tools, Options. Under Text Editor, select C# and then check this line numbers and click OK. If you've ever written anything in C#, you've perhaps already used objects. For example, if you write a simple application like console.writeLine and then pass a value like hello world, in here you've already used objects. Let me run this application. To run it, press down Control and then press F5. Control F5 and then it will run this application. Now if you look at this application here, this simple application, it already has objects. For example, console is a class, and in this class console we are calling a method called writeLine. We can create all this by ourselves. These are inbuilt objects, but we can also create our own objects. For example, if you want to create a class, it's very simple. Come to the name of your project, right click it and then click add project, add a class. A class is already highlighted here. Then give your class a name. So for example, you can call it employee and press enter or click add right here, and we already have our own homegrown class, which is employee. Employee is so similar to program, only that program has this method here, the main method. The main method is that first method that will execute when an application is run. For example, you may have so many objects, so many classes, so many methods and so many folders in your application, but the first application, the first class to run is the class that has the main method. Then my namespace, a namespace is basically what its name suggests. It's the space where you've saved your project. For example, you can look at it as a folder in Windows. This one here is saved under my project. This is where the class program is. Employee is also under my project. Let's go ahead and create a folder here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Creating a folder is also easy. Just right click here, come to add and then select folder, give it a name. In this folder you can go ahead and create another object, say a class. I will create a class in here, give it a name. Let me call it vehicles, for example. Press enter. Class vehicles is in a namespace called myproject.jamcom. If you've used Windows and you know the Windows hierarchy, this would have been a slash, but in C# it should be a dot. That's what a namespace is. And when you want to access other objects. For example, if I'm here in programs and I would like to access any object in employee, all I do is write employee. It's already detecting that it knows what employee is. So if I press down the dot operator, I'll be able to access the other objects in employee. You'll be wondering where these objects are coming from. These are inherited objects. We shall be talking about inheritance later on. But if you try to access vehicle cannot be accessed because class employee doesn't know where vehicle is, for a simple reason that vehicle is in another namespace. If you look at program and employee, they are both in namespace called my project. So if you want to access something which is in another namespace, you use the using keyword. For example, if you want to access vehicles when we are in program class, we have to say using my project dot jamcom. That way we can now call vehicle dot, and then we call the other objects in this one. That's why you see that we already have these using statements here. If we go ahead, if we went ahead and deleted the using system, console will be highlighted in red, because at this moment class program doesn't know where console is coming from. But if we put it back, console will know that program knows that console is coming from systems. For those of you who have used things like using my system dot data dot mysql rather dot sql client, for example, you now know why you use this, because the objects you want to use are residing in a different space, not in systems but in another folder. Well, you can think about it as a folder, as I told you, but it's not really a folder, but it's in another space. Now we shall start creating our own objects. Let's create on our own object here, and it's only logical that we shall start with a constructor. A constructor, for me, I look at it as a form. Have you ever gone to fill in a form somewhere? They give you a piece of paper where you have fill in your details. For example, for employee, they want your name, maybe your age, sex, and all that. Well, and a constructor is like that form. However, the constructor is the original form that is produced. They produce it and then they begin making photocopies. So this is an original form where we don't need to write anything in it, because if we did, it means everyone we give that form to photocopy, you will have those details. Let me just create one and then we shall get a feel of what it is. We shall make it public. And always a constructor should have the same name as the class. Now if you want to create a copy of this object here in program, all we do, we come here and say employee, maybe James, is equal to new employee. To me, this makes a lot of sense. We are saying we are creating a copy of employee. First, forget about this keyword here, employee, this first employee. All we are saying is James is a new employee, and it makes a lot of sense that way. But this first employee here is the data type. As we shall see along, every time we create objects, we need to know their data types, and employee now here is a data type. Let's create another object. For example, we shall create a class level field. For example, let's create name. Should be a string. String name, and then string maybe the designation. Since these are fields, let's have an underscore here, and maybe string salary. Now, in order to access these strings in our new employee here, we need to make them public. I know this is a crime. This is really criminal to create this when they can be accessed outside their classes, but let's just create it for the sake of demonstration. We now have objects that we can access in our class program. For example, we can now say James.name is equal to James, co, then terminate this, and then James dot designation is equal to developer, and James dot salary is equal to 200, for example. And we needed to make this not a string but a decimal. We can also go ahead and create another employee. Say employee Julie is equal to new employee, and then Julie dot name is equal to Julie Naismore, then Julie dot designation is equal to director, and then Julie dot salary is equal to, say, 350. Now we've now been able to create our own objects. We can go ahead and print out something. Console dot write line Julie dot name concatenate with your salary is, concatenate Julie dot salary. Then console dot write line gems dot name concatenate with your salary is gems dot salary. Now when you run this, we'll be able to see the items we've called. So this takes me to where I had mentioned that this one here is like the original copy of what you're creating, so that you can be able to create photocopies of these different employee. For example, we now have a photocopy for Julie and a photocopy for James. As I mentioned earlier on, it's very bad habit to allow a public field, because we are not allowed to have fields edited in or set in other classes. When we come back, we shall be seeing how to put this right. Thanks for watching.